It's premium, it's Canadian, it overcame the Halifax explosion. Today, we're drinking Moosehead Lager. Hi guys, it's Jim here from Dr. Tankenstein with another episode of Beers of the British Isles. Now, in this episode, I'm doing something that I've never done before. The beer that we're drinking today isn't from Britain. It's Canadian, in fact. And it's not widely available in British supermarkets. But this beer, the beer that we're drinking today, Moosehead Lager, ties for my least favourite beer of all time. So, when I saw it in a bottle shop the other day, I thought, you have to do a video on it, because then at least you have to be honest with yourself about whether or not this is your least favourite beer of all time. So, just to repeat again, we're drinking Moosehead Lager. This is not available in supermarkets, it is not British, but I really don't like this beer, and I don't quite know why. I think one of the reasons why might be that my cousin, real good mate of mine, really loves it, and that just makes me hate it even more because he really loves it. But anyway, we'll get to it. I'll give it the most honest review I can. It's going to be tough. So this Moosehead is a 5% lager, Canadian lager. It's got 13 IBUs, which seems quite low to me. 5% lager, I guess, would be about, 1050, maybe 1045 OG. So to have 13 IBUs, that's like a 0.3 almost bitterness to gravity ratio. But we'll hold judgment on that, see how it turns out. It's 3.5 on the SRM scale, which probably doesn't mean a lot to you. So the SRM scale, I think, stands for the Standard Reference Method, and that's just a way of measuring the color of beer, basically. So this is 3.5. It's very pale. So this is going to be a very pale lager. 13 IBUs. I'm guessing it's going to be quite malty, and 5% kind of boozy. When I was a kid, 5% was massive. So let's look forward to that. So this is Canadian. It's a Canadian lager, unashamedly Canadian. There's a moose right there on the bottle. Can you get any more Canadian than that? I guess it could be wearing flannel, but it's not. So, all right, Canadian. It has 100% Canadian barley in there. I don't know if that means that it doesn't have any adjuncts also. So I guess a North American lager would typically have some corn, or maybe even rice in there, to make it lighter. So to get that 3.5 SRM, to get a really light lager, you would put something like corn or rice in there. I don't know if they've done that here, because it does say 100% Canadian barley. I don't know if that means that all of the barley is Canadian and everything else it might not be, or if it just means that this beer, 100% of this beer is Canadian barley. I don't know. I don't think it really matters. So, they've used the Moosehead yeast culture to ferment it, which is interesting because Moosehead brew a lot of other types of beer as well. So I guess without further ado, guys, I'm about to crack open my least favorite beer of all time. Let's do this. Okay, we're in the glass. It is very light. It's very light in color. They definitely weren't sort of understating that. It's super light. It almost has a white wine color to it. So I'm not even gonna pretend I know wines, but I think, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, this is just slightly darker than a Sauvignon Blanc. So really not very dark at all, not a lot of colour to it. The head retention's pretty poor. I know I always go on about the glasses and stuff, but this didn't even try to fluff up as I poured it. And I do like things to fluff up. So the head retention is pretty poor. Colour's really nice though, really looks great. So let's give it a sniff. Right, interesting. I'm not sure what hops are in this, but this has a real pepperiness to the smell. Kind of pepperiness I've never really smelled before in a beer, especially not a beer that looks like this. That looks like you wouldn't even smell it at all. Yeah, pepperiness kind of hits you right in the back of the nose. Bottoms up. Okay. Okay. Now, have you ever had soda water? No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. It's very, very lightly flavored. I'll say that. The aftertaste is stronger than the initial the initial flavor. There's not really a lot of hops in there. But where I thought the 13 IBUs, sorry, was going to be very low, it's actually sitting quite nice in it. It's still quite crisp and sharp, even with those 13 IBUs. You know, there's a nice sort of sweet aftertaste rather than being left with a bitter edge at the end. I guess what's happened is this beer must just ferment out basically dry. Obviously there's not a lot of colour in it. They've used very low kilned malts. I would hazard to say there is probably some kind of adjunct in here as well. If there isn't, bravo, because I have no idea how you've done this otherwise. So what I'm guessing is it's kind of like a brut IPA. The brut IPA ferments out so dry that any bitterness in it goes a long way. And those 13 IBUs that I was talking about really sit nice in this. Any more and it would have been too bitter. So, bitterness to gravity ratio about 0.3, did I say earlier? That's an estimate. Really, really goes well. So we got, a very subtle sweetness, a very balanced bitterness, and not a lot else. Okay, the brewery that makes this, Moosehead, obviously, who else? Moosehead makes this. So the brewery in one form or another was founded in, I think, 1867 by a lady the name of Susanna Oland. I don't know. That's the name anyway. Which is kind of cool, 1867, I don't mean this in the way it might sound, but it's kind of strange that a woman was able to found a company back then, I think. Women couldn't even vote back then. So it's cool that this Susanna Oland started this massive company. I think it's great and probably a testament to the town. So over the years, it's very old for a North American brewery. It's been around a while. Over the years, it's being called different things. I think Turtle Grove Brewery, Army and Navy, Oland and Sons, and now Moosehead. It became Moosehead in 1947. So it's the same brewery. I think it's the same family line. I'm not sure if they have the same surname anymore, but I'm pretty sure the same family still kind of own or operate it, or one or the other. And this Moosehead is the only major Canadian brewery to still be fully owned by Canadians, which, it's kind of a cool sort of sticker to have. And it's probably just because it sounds so goddamn Canadian, Moosehead. Could there be any more? Unless the Mountie Brewery is around the corner, then I guess Moosehead takes it. But yeah, cool brewery, very old for a Canadian brewery, and they've been doing this for a long time, so I guess good on them. Okay, let's sum this up then. Let's sum up Moosehead Lager. So the colour, like I say, is great. It's like almost like a sherry colour actually. So just slightly darker than a white wine. Very, very low colour. Head retention is pretty poor, but the carbonation, interestingly, is still very, very strong. You can still see it. I mentioned that pepperiness to the aroma that doesn't carry through. In the same way into the taste, but I guess if you were looking for a hop flavor, it would definitely be spicy. Maybe not peppery, but spicy. And by that, I don't mean spicy like hot. I mean spicy like spiced. You know, like probably not like a lavender or anything, but kind of an earthy spiciness to it. Now, other than that, there is not an awful lot of flavour to this beer. This beer is more of an experience in your mouth. So, like I say, it's very well carbonated and very strangely well bittered for what the statistics read as. So it's not a real flavourful beer, but it is still a beer, I think. So I'm going to rate this. I'm going to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, but I had a few questions in my mind where so when I rate this, I'm going to rate it against lagers, obviously, because it's a lager. But the brewery said that this toes the line between malt sweetness and hop bitterness. And that just seemed like a real generic thing to read when they said that. But it's absolutely true. Like I say, there are only 13 IBUs in this 5% lager, and it's pretty damn spot on. Like I say, any more and it would be too bitter. Any less, I mean, I wouldn't like to comment on that, but I would say that maybe it would be too sweet. Because the malt flavor isn't huge, but it is still there somewhat. So on a scale of 0 to 10, bearing in mind lagers, I'm gonna give this beer a 5. Okay, it's not my least favorite beer anymore. I don't think. I think I have a special reservation for that one. But it's still just not something that I would go to again. This would be a good beer for an end of the night beer, I guess, because it's not super heavy. It's kind of just like I said, like an experience, almost like a brut IPA is. The weird thing about this beer is that it has 5% alcohol, which seems, I don't know, for the flavor, for the experience, it just seems like a bit of a waste to me. I wouldn't like to have 5% alcohol from this beer. If you're with me, that's fine. If not, watch the next video. But this is a very crushable beer. You know, you could easily drink, 6 or 7 of these without even realizing you'd had one, because it's so light, it's so crisp, it's such an experience that it doesn't kind of linger with you. So if you can, get out there to your bottle shops and find a bottle of Moosehead and let me know, because for the longest time I've assumed I must be wrong about this beer because people really, really love it. But this is my honest review of this beer. To me, it's okay. All right, so that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it though. So please go out there, get a Moosehead, and let me know what you think. Cheers, guys.